Hi students, welcome to week 9. We're going to be looking this week at promoting change and encouraging adaptability. And that's a really important skill for a manager, particularly if you join an organisation that is threatened in their external environment. Let's say that there are a number of different problems and changing situations in the environment. Maybe they've lost a big customer and it severely affected their profitability. So you might be brought in as a change agent, the manager that's going to change. Maybe there's some cultural elements that need to be changed in the organisation so that you can move forward and become sustainable as a business. So it's really important to know how to promote change and encourage adaptability in the organisation. So let's get right into it. Let's firstly have a look at the open systems model. And the open systems model has assumptions and goals, paradoxes and competencies, and these are just like the other human relations model that we've looked at, rational goal model. So this is the 4th module that we're looking at, open systems model. So let's have a look at the summary. It has criteria of effectiveness, and its criteria of effectiveness, it will be judged an effective strategy to use as a manager if it promotes adaptability and change within the organisation. So the ends that they're trying to achieve for this in means-ends theory is adaptation and innovation lead to acquiring external resources. So you must be adaptable, you must have innovation as a focus, and your assessment too, the practical management report concentrates on this area of innovation, and it must lead to acquiring external resources to assist with that. So the action imperative is creation or create. You must create in this environment, or create an environment that is very creative and produces results that other organisations have yet to do. Its emphasis is on political adaptation, so changing the organisation from within, having a look at power within the organisation, because that's always linked to politics, and power and how it's used within the organisation. Got to have creative problem solving, you have to have a change management strategy. The culture is an adhocracy. All right, so in this case, an adhocracy is really considering those things that come together and make the most sense in producing the outcome or the action imperative of creativity. Let's have a look at the paradoxes of this model. People yearn for and also distrust power. So people like to have power, but then other people having power over them makes them distrustful. That's a paradox. New innovations often depend on old habits. So if you're going to innovate, you can't be looking backwards, you've got to look forwards, and you can't be using old systems in which to create innovation. Things have to change within the internal structure of the organisation in order to promote innovation. If you're not innovating now, then you have to change the structure. The harder we try to make changes, the more resistance we encounter. So as you try to change how things are done, the more you will find that there is resistance from those participants in the organisation who do not wish to adapt to that change. So how do we create these core competencies? Well, we have to understand that using power ethically and effectively is the best outcome. Championing and selling new ideas, fueling and fostering innovation is really important. So how, as a manager, would you fuel and foster innovation? Well, one way that I would do it, and the one way that's worked for me in the past, is that I would call people together. I would highlight someone who's doing a great job, who's innovated, who's saved the company or the organisation money, someone who's secured a new client through creative thinking, and I would point them out, and I would probably give them an award, or I would give them a present or a prize to say, look, this person here, let's call that person Sarah. Sarah's doing a great job. She's just secured a new client, a client that we've never had before from a market segment that we're not used to servicing, and she's got a great plan for how we're going to provide great outcomes for that new client. And she used her initiative. She saw a gap where we could potentially move into, steal a customer or steal a client from another competitor, let's say, and you're rewarding Sarah for that in front of all of her peers. And that will encourage other people who are her peers to follow her lead, because they will like to achieve what Sarah has achieved. So negotiating agreement and commitment is really important. You've got to get buy-in from your subordinates. And implementing and sustaining change is really important. So the change that you make, you have to make it concrete. All right, so managers who focus on the open systems, they like to build powerful networks and use influence in ethical ways. So they spend a lot of time talking with people internally and externally to the organisation, finding out about the goals and the needs of those people and working with them to make those things happen. And that's powerful networking. And they use influence in ethical ways, so they're not considering just themselves, they're considering also the impact of their actions, that's ethics, and looking at their morals, and their morals will guide them to produce a result that's ethical in business. They know their audience as well as their own purpose when communicating ideas, so they know who they're talking to, they know what they want, and they know how to discuss their needs and wants in an important way that means value for them, value for the subordinates or to the networks. Accept failure as a path to innovation, so they understand that failure can occur. Seek to find win-win outcomes, so things that benefit both organisations. Oh, something's just come up on my screen there, I'll just close that. Seek to find win-win outcomes, something that's a win-win for both organisations or when you're going to your external networks. So let's say there's a partnership opportunity, you've both got similar clients, your organisation A and you're networking with organisation B, and you say to organisation B, I think that if we partnered together and put a bid together, our weaknesses would be compensated by your strengths. Our strengths would compensate your weaknesses as we see them strategically, not that you probably would call it that when you're talking to organisation B. You don't want to highlight that they have weaknesses. And you would say, look, if we did this together, worked as a team on this from both organisations, we're likely to be the strongest bid in the room, we're likely to win. So how about we partner together? If we both win, you take half, we take half, it's a win-win. Consider the concerns of individuals when planning and implementing change. All right, so let's have a look at the primary tensions. We do this for each of the 4 quadrant models in the CFE. So we've got flexibility and stability, external focus and internal focus. The focus here is externally, outside the organisation, and the organisation needs to have a flexible culture, a flexible approach. So using power ethically and effectively, that's very, very important. So you can have different types of leaders and different types of leadership. So you can have weak leaders, great leaders, and overbearing leaders. Weak leaders ignore non-compliance. So if people are not turning up at work on time, they're not going to confront them about it. They're not going to deal with the situation. They give in to the demands of subordinates. If subordinates become upset or annoyed at a change, they talk about it round a table, they usually win. Make excuses. They often sort of talk about why things didn't work out in this particular case, and it wasn't really something we did, it was something they did, something that they need to change. It's not me that needs to change, it's other people that need to change. Those sort of leaders, weak leaders. Great leaders inspire commitment. They respect the concerns of their subordinates and they take responsibility. So if something has happened, some failure has occurred, then they will ultimately take it on the chin. They won't look around to be making excuses. They'll be actually saying, look, this is what's happened this time, I take responsibility for that, this is what we can do in the future to avoid this again. Overbearing leaders, they coerce compliance, so they really get involved with their subordinates and say, look, if you don't do this, I'm going to take pay away from you, or if you don't do this, then you're not going on a trip that we had planned for you to do. That's the sort of thing that an overbearing leader might do. Expect blind obedience at all times and loyalty from subordinates without really giving anything in return, and they blame others again. They don't take that responsibility that great leaders do. So Albrecht has a model about sources of power, and power comes from position, opportunity, wealth, expertise, and relationships. So you can have, because if you're the CEO, or if you're James Packer, who's a CEO, an Australian CEO, by your position you have power. By definition, being the CEO gives you certain power. You can have opportunity as a source of power. Power can come from wealth. Power can come from the fact that you know how a nuclear reactor is built. That gives you expertise power. If no one else knows how a nuclear reactor is built, then you obviously have power over those people. Relationships, so relationships that people have, close relationships, intimate, sensitive relationships, they give you power as well. All right, lifting your network. So how do you encourage growth in your network so that you can even measure it, so that you can say, right, well, I'm doing better than I was 12 months ago. One way I do that to measure my performance in networking is I have this file, and I'll show you. I'll just go and get that for you. All right, so I'm back. So this is how I measure my performance as a manager and my network. So I have this folder of contacts I've met. This is just the last 12 months, this folder, and it contains business cards. And obviously the most important strategic businesses I feature at the front of this file, and it has all contacts of people. So if we look at Auswide Bank, which is a very important strategic partner for me, I have the general manager for human resources, their business card, the head of marketing, their business card, head of internal audit, head of learning and development, the business banking manager, the senior auditor, the chief financial officer, lending consultant, and top of the pack, the CEO. I have their business card. So that's an important organization. So I measure how many cards, how many blank spaces are filled by a card with an important strategic partner. And as we move through, you can see that I don't have many spaces left for this year. So I've done all my networking. I've met my targets for 2016, and we're only at the beginning of September. So that's a very good result for me. It's not only external networks, I'm also interested in internal networks within the university, so people who can help me do my job. And who's got the best business card? Well, I like this one here from Bundaberg Rum. Let me just find it. That's an important strategic partner for our school. Bundaberg Rum is run by a company called Diageo Australia, and they have a great reverse to their business card, all of their products there. So they have Bundaberg Rum, Johnny Walker, Smirnoff, Gordon's. Basically, looking at the back of the card, it's a great night out. All right, so that's how I would start looking at measuring my network and seeing if my network is lifting in its success, because you obviously have to have a way of measuring success. So be purpose-centered. So understand exactly strategically who you want to meet in the next 12 months, who will be important to giving you a job or helping you do the job that you currently do. Be internally directed, so it's your internal focus, what's inside your goals. Move your networking towards your goals, what you want to do. Be in places where you're going to meet the people that you want to meet. So if they're holding a seminar, make sure you go. Be other focused, so think of what other people need and not what you need when you're networking. It's about giving away. Basically about giving yourself away, giving your time away, talking about what others want to achieve and giving to them of your time and your interest in their issues. So don't be centered in yourself when you're going, I want this from today, I want to achieve this at this networking event. Think about the other people you're going to meet and what they want. Be externally open, so make sure that you've got a way of people contacting you. So I use things like this. I'll take along a set of business cards to an event. So I have nice fresh business cards that are uncrumpled, undamaged, undirty, in a container, plastic container, so they stay like that. And I put that in my pocket and I head off to a networking function, and I hand out as many of these as I can because they don't earn any money sitting in your pocket. And that helps you lift your network. So networking is an important skill, an important skill for a manager. So influence strategies and tactics. Let's have a look at that. So how do you influence strategies and tactics? So position, opportunity, and wealth. Legitimate authority is really important. You've got to have authority. You've got to come from a place where you are appointed to do this kind of role of networking. Upward appeal, co-optation, bargaining, and pressure. Those things are really important in developing position, opportunity, and wealth. Relationships, you've got to have inspirational appeal. So I think one way that I do that is just really engage with the person and talk about themselves and talk about what they need. And it's inspiring for people to talk about themselves and their needs, and they're given an opportunity to do that, they will respond to that. Personal appeal, ingratiation, and coalition formation, all great ways to create relationships. So what's ingratiation? Well, I think you have to sort of be available to help people and to recognize that they have needs and that you're interested in fulfilling those needs, even though perhaps you're not being paid for it. Maybe there's something you can do to help people, and that's the approach to have, and that's when networking and influencing strategies and tactics works the best. Got to be good at coalition formation, so you've got to know how to build teams. That's really important. So expertise, you've got to have expertise in what you're talking about and what you're approaching people about. So if you have no skill in engineering, and you're at an engineering conference, you're probably not going to have a lot of expertise, and you'll have to admit that and use rational persuasion when you're talking to people, and you'll have to know about current events and current things. So get upskilled before you go to a networking event, find out about what the networking event is about, and find out some questions you'd like to ask and some knowledge about the subject. So influencing, you can influence people up the organization, so people higher than you, down the organization, people at a lower level than you, and across the organization. And it's really good to have strategies that move in all those directions. So a manager must be able to build coalitions, build strength, build momentum behind their ideas, and that way you'll absolutely be able to promote change in your organization and encourage people to be adaptable and to be open to change. All right, so that's the conclusion. I suggest people get a little case of business cards. You can get them done at companies. I see ads on television all the time saying about $20, $25 to get a set of business cards done up. Put your photo on it. I always think that's a good idea, and the back and the front should both be used because they're both a marketing opportunity to tell people about yourself. All right, have a great week, and we'll see you in week 10. All right.